Hello viewers, Super GT here with Watkins Glen now in GT7. I thought I'd jump online and do some races. And this rabbit here has prime viewing position for the unfolding action. It turned out to be a track which produces very, very close racing indeed. I did a video last week about this. But in these races, this is the actual daily races within the game. And therefore, it should be a lot closer. Now, jumping into this first race, I think this first one is an example of how to do things wrong. Because this one, well, it was very much a learning experience, should we say. And it was very much a difficult race up against very fast opponents. It didn't set much of a quick lap time, starting here in 10th position on the grid for the 10-lap race. Well, we were in top split. We were in the top split against the best players, and therefore it was always going to be quite tricky. Now, to kick things off on lap 1 here, this guy kind of just forgets to turn. There is a right-hander there, as you can see, and he got there eventually, maybe about 2 seconds too late. My next opponent was the Russian here, who had a penalty, serves the penalty. Was I close enough to go for this move? Not quite. He's on the inside. Going to be a brave move around the outside here. Although if I can keep it, well, we do keep it. We're going to have the inside line for this next corner, but I get fully alongside and actually ahead before this turn. So up into 8th. So everything's going just fine at this point until here, lap number 4, and look at this, just over the line. Maybe I'd estimate 3 pixels over the line there. And that is going to be meaning I get a penalty, as you can see, ignoring the track limits. So I serve that penalty. The Russian comes back past, so we're trading positions here after penalties. And then I felt like, you know what, 1 penalty is enough. Let's go and get another one. This time 2 pixels over the line. Absolutely tragic. And there we go. Pure frustration. But we can't let it distract us too much because we have to come into the pit lane here at the end of lap 5. Swap over from the medium tyres onto the soft. You do have to use both of those tyres in this race, soft and medium. Started on the medium, going on to the soft. We are now on the stronger tyre and coming out into traffic. This is really the part of the race which kind of shows you just how important it is to be bang on it. Let's say, to put it technically. Now, if I didn't get that penalty, either of the 2 penalties, I mean, I've only served 1 so far. So let's say if I didn't get that first penalty, I would be in 7th right now, I do believe. Therefore, that kind of just shows you how important it is and how close it is in the mid-pack of these types of races. The competition is very close, and therefore 1 mistake can drop you multiple positions. And this penalty here is going to drop me further positions, which is extremely frustrating because we have 2 cars very close behind, and there's no doubt I'm going to lose both of these positions here. So let's see how this one plays out. Through the exit of the long right-hander up the hill, tricky to get on the power early there. We're going to lose 1 and 2 positions, maybe 3. Let's take a look. He's on the outside. I do kind of half send it back up the inside. Right, we're going to go side by side on the exit. He's got the line here coming down in towards the next turn, and therefore drop to 12th. And really, that is a massive swing of momentum. 2 mistakes, 2 penalties means that I should be 7th without them, but now I'm 12th, and that really gives you a good indication of how close it is in the mid-pack here, and how costly it is to make very rookie errors, which I've just done there. But we still have a few laps remaining, and therefore we're going to try and fight back some of these positions. We're on the soft tyre as well. I'm on the better tyre for the second half of the race, and therefore we can try to push and try to gain some positions back. It looks like the Hungarian driver there in 10th having a bit of trouble, and he might be one of the free runners here who is on the alternative strategy. He's on the medium tyre now. Sometimes it's quite hard to tell, but I think here quite clear he has a slight lack of grip as the British driver grazes up against barrier there on the exit of the turn. I'm going to half send out the inside, and I say half send, and thankfully he left the space, because I think normally most people would have turned in there, and I think they would have had every right to turn in because it was quite a late move. But either way, I find myself back in 10th, which is where we started. This guy finds himself in the wall, which isn't where he started, but it's where he's ended. And then these guys began to fight up in front. I found myself in 9th. In fact, the guy in 7th has a penalty, so I have a kind of a half a chance here of recovering back to 7th, which wouldn't be too bad in a high split lobby. And my first race of this daily race, first attempt. But then I felt like completing the penalty trifecta here on the exit of the penultimate turn. By, well, I mean, you tell me how many pixels that is over the line. Not many, maybe 4, I would guess. But we get handed with a half-second penalty, 3 penalties in this race, and then boom, we're going to lose another position back down to 10th on lap 10 of 10. So rate that performance out of 10, I would say probably, well, maybe a 5 or a 6. It wasn't too bad, other than those 3 penalties, but they're just very costly. Now I improved my qualifying time, got it down to a 41.8, which was slightly better than 42.5, but it's 7 tenths better. And that put me in 8th position here instead of 10th. And what I thought I'd do is go for the reverse strategy in race number 2, which is now just beginning. And the reverse strategy is go on the soft tyre and attack at the start on the stronger tyre, try to gain positions early on, and then try to keep them in the second half of the race when you're on the slower tyre. And a key component of this strategy is don't get penalties. So that is the aim for this one. Let's try to keep it nice and clean and improve our position here from 8th on the grid. And I definitely sense I can move forward here. For those wondering, the cars that most people are using, the BMW M6, the Sprint or Endurance model, they're both the same pretty much. Booster goes defensive here. He is in the Genesis, and that is a very good car for this track. In fact, it is the car that you have to use for the circuit experience around Watkins Glen. And after giving it a go in that circuit experience, it does feel very stable. It's a very good car for this track. Now, you see here, I'm very much on the front foot against this guy. I'm on the soft tyre, just trying to work out who is on mediums and who is on softs. I do feel quicker than the few in front of me, and therefore I'm sensing that they are on the medium tyre. I therefore really need to try to get past them as quickly as possible. Otherwise, I am not maximising the potential of this tyre. So let's see what we can do about trying to nab 7th place here off of Fusa in front. With the final corner, up against the wall as close as possible, and then heading down towards turn 1, famous for the shameful Rammers incident all those years ago. On the brakes just before the 200 board, get the car in onto the power, and he just goes a little bit wide there, has to back out of the power for fear of getting a penalty going over the curb, and I just nip in underneath. It was kind of an unusual overtake, but we get the job done, up into 7th, now with the Hungarian driver in front. Definitely a good place to overtake here into the bus stop chicane. It can be quite tricky, but given that it's got a very long straight going before it, you can get the momentum past a lot of people. Not quite on this occasion though. So let's see about trying to set up a move further into this lap. Down the hill, braking on the 200 board, let the car rotate, second gear back to third, on the power out to the outside. And then here into this right-hander, looking for the boards on the left, braking just before the 100 board. Down to second gear to rotate, back to third for a better acceleration on the exit. And then, oh my goodness, the Frenchman very, very wide, almost losing complete control of the car. Losing momentum though. The Hungarian goes defensive, and at the last moment opens up the inside, and I'm going to stay on the inside. And slam it up there to claim 5th position. He's very close behind. Do we have to go defensive? Not quite. We're going to keep this one. And that was a good lap there, I'd say. A couple of positions gained. You see how close it is in that group behind. And this race is an example of, well, we make clinical moves when we have to, go forward, no mistakes, no penalties. And this is what happens if you make a penalty. If I had a penalty already, probably could lose with 3 or 4 positions. So lap 3 here, very crucial in the sense that I've got space in front, I've got the soft tyre. Let's try and push and open up this gap to the cars behind and try to catch up with the Swiss driver in front. Through the bus stop, crucial part of the lap. Definitely have to commit big time through that one. We do that, and I can see that I'm visually gaining on this car in front. Things are happening here, guys. Down the hill on the 200 board, there we go, on the brakes, nice and consistent. Really getting a flow around Watkins Glen. This track, very fast, average speed. As we take a quick look back behind there, and that gap certainly is opening up to those behind, and it is very much getting smaller to the driver in front, as you can see. Looking for the 200 board, braking just after it, braking just before the 100 board, maybe about 150 metres before this turn. Get on the power early, and he's, oh my goodness, he's going to take a trip and spin into oblivion, and I'm going to take 4th position. Okay, so this race has gone very much to plan so far, and I'm really rather happy with how it's turned out. But of course, you know, with 6 laps remaining in this one, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Consta there overtakes a Hungarian driver and moves up into 5th. And I was very wary on the opening cinematics for this race, looking at the grid. There's some very quick guys starting at the back of the pack, and therefore you must never discount those kind of players, because they can always make their way through the pack and finish ahead of you, even if you're starting quite high up. And at the beginning of lap number 5, the gap to Consta, 1.7 seconds, and I think that he is on the soft tyre as well. Through turn 1, not too bad, although on the exit having a bit of a moment. Thankfully not losing too much time, only about a 10th on that occasion. And at the end of the lap, the gap was about 1.5. Therefore, he didn't really gain too much on that 5, which is good. Going into the pit lane, trying to stay within the pit line, otherwise you will get a 3-second penalty if you cross it. In we go, onto the medium tyre. The BMW boys here are going to do their fantastic job as ever. Swapping over the tyres, no fuel to go in. And on the exit, see what the situation is, as we're going to drive out into a fairly clear circuit. But this is where things really change, because the first half of the race, the dynamic was that of good tyres, therefore we can push and overtake and gain positions. And now it's really kind of the opposite, just trying to stay ahead on the slower tyre, try to manage the gap to those behind, but also just be consistent, knowing that the cars behind are gaining, but not panicking too much. It's very easy to do that and focus way too much on the cars behind. If I just lap consistently on these tyres, I should hopefully be able to bring home a very good result. Let's not forget, started P8 in this one, and therefore up into 4th by this point, halfway into the race. Not too bad. The top 3 are quite a long way ahead, therefore it'll be very difficult to catch up with any of those. I think a P4 from P8 would be a satisfactory result. The boys back at Bavaria. Now, through the penultimate turn here, I just noticed that Will Murdoch, I do believe he made the mistake of changing from medium tyres to medium tyres, and you do have to use the softs. And, you know, it's a classic error. We've all been there before, where you change onto the wrong tyre, you have to come back in for a second stop and change over to the correct one. And therefore, that put me in 3rd position. I'm on the podium as it stands here, but with cars very slowly but surely closing in, it was not going to be an easy finish. Now Consta at this point here 1.3 or 1.4 seconds behind, so not within slipstream range, but certainly someone to take note of, as it would surely begin to slowly reel me in. At the end of lap 7, beginning of lap 8, 3/4 of a second. The gap was coming down, but then Breeze, aka Wind, goes through and takes over the reins of the job of trying to catch me up. And Wind is at the moment one of the very fastest players in the game. A couple of world records to his name, I do believe, for the daily races. And therefore I had quite a task in my hand trying to keep that calibre of player behind, but I was doing a fairly okay job so far, driving nice and consistent, and not really panicking too much. So through the chute, actually is this the chute? You're gonna have to correct me in the comments. I think this corner here is the chute, the beginning of the boot. And taking a look at the cinematic camera here, you see a queue of cars slowly descending upon my position, and this was going to be a really rather difficult finish. As you can see, a breeze very, very close, 0.3 seconds behind. I think it's quite evident that he's on the soft tyre. There's a tyre advantage over me, therefore this is going to be quite tricky. Now on the exit here I have a bit of a moment. I'm going to cover the inside. He was ready to pounce at that opportunity, but I closed the door, made sure it didn't happen, and then again here, better traction, and he gets a slight run into the penultimate turn. I was just going to turn across. He didn't really have much of a car alongside, and he backed out, and therefore that was my first kind of warning that this is going to become a difficult race. You see the stream of cars as we cross the line for 2 to go. Lap 9 of 10 now beginning. Through turn 1, get a decent exit here. Very important that you get a good exit because you are flat out for quite a long time, and it's uphill here. Therefore you do need a good exit, and it might give you a bit of a buffer because coming up into the bus stop, good overtaking opportunity. I'm going to try to break the toe, and he's not going to be close enough to go for this move, but this is where this race unravels, unfortunately, as I almost take the apex too well. Coming through there, I get a 1 second penalty, and I do believe it was for the third apex, so the second of the lefts. So you go over there, and there was this bit here, I think, 4 wheels over the yellow line on the inside. You can go 4 wheels over the white line on the yellow line on the outside, but not on the inside. And unfortunately, that means I do not have favour with the stewards as they slap me with a 1 second penalty at a very crucial moment of the race. And this is an issue that I felt like I definitely needed to eradicate from the first race. I didn't quite manage it on this occasion. And quite painfully, we're going to drop from 3rd to 6th. And in a divine twist, we move back to basically where I belong, P6. It just had to happen really, didn't it? And with just over a lap to go, I don't really have much time to make a reply here as we cross the line to begin the final lap of 10. Now I'm really hoping that some of the cars in front begin fighting to some extent, but that doesn't seem to be happening. We do have Alex Ora behind, very, very quick German player, therefore it's going to be quite tricky to even just keep 6th position. And it's really one of those races where you're left ruining, what could have been. This could have been a podium against very high caliber players, and well, as long as you learn from it. I didn't quite learn from the first race going into the second, as I still got a penalty, but well, at least I know that you definitely shouldn't be getting penalties because, well, as you've seen in both races, they push you down the order. And this is in many ways the beauty of racing, the fact that it's so close, and everyone in here is kind of racing with respect and with good speed, and in many ways it's an honour to be racing against such good players. And unfortunately on this occasion we're just going to miss out on the podium. Going to finish in 6th. It was a really good race though. I'm really happy with the pace. Just that one mistake, and you're losing 3 positions. Overall, it was a very enjoyable race. I hope you enjoyed the video. And in fact, I'll try and do some more races around Watkins Glen because it is a very enjoyable circuit. And do let me know your thoughts on Watkins Glen. But thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day, and I shall see you next time. Goodbye.